What up, everybody? Welcome back to Operation Moksha. As always, I'm your host, Chris Orozco, and today I'm building off that poll that I did on my Instagram the other day where I asked you guys what you wanted me to teach you the most. Now, the first answer was how to trust yourself. Already did a video on that. But today, the second most common answer was, how do I tell the difference between fear and intuition? And you probably heard the same answer everybody gives, which is like, oh, well, intuition is just like quiet and calm and still and just kind of is, bro. Whereas like fear is more tight and like constricting and forceful and blah, 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 blah. You can know the difference between the feelings, but still keep confusing yourself for a few different reasons. First reason I'm gonna give you is that you probably don't actually want to know which one's your intuition and which one's your fear. This is the most common thing, is people don't know the difference because they don't actually want to know the difference. If you knew the difference between your fear and your intuition, you would probably want to, at least be tempted to, or feel a need to follow the intuition. Now, if you followed your intuition, but that scares you or it goes against your identity, well, your mind just simply won't let you do that. So even if you know the difference, you're gonna act like you don't, confuse yourself and make the thing so much more complicated than it needs to be. Now, the other reason is that you might be afraid to fail. You might be afraid to be like, okay, like let's just take this, let's try this, see how it goes. And for me personally, the way I fine-tuned my radar as to what is intuition and what is fear is by making a lot of mistakes. By doing my best to be like, okay, this one feels solid and this one feels more frantic, so I'm gonna go with the solid one. And then you just kind of see the results that it gives you. Because if you follow fear, you're gonna get fear-based results that are gonna be self-fulfilling prophecies and make you feel shit about yourself. But if you follow your intuition, you're gonna get intuitive-based responses that are gonna be like, wow, I'm so glad I trusted myself. That worked out so perfectly. I know so much more than I thought I do. Like, one will be fear-affirming and one will be life-affirming. So the results are a huge element of this, but so is the trial and error process. I find there's a lot of people that don't wanna go through the trial and error process because they're afraid of failing. They're afraid of what that might mean about them. However, this type of thing can only really be developed through trial and error, because it's not something that you just like can hear, like, oh, intuition feels like this and fear feels like this, and then suddenly you just have ultimate clarity. Like, that's not how it works. Like I said before, there's so many reasons you wouldn't want to follow your intuition. There's so many reasons why it might scare you. So there's things you have to work through in order to even be willing to either identify or follow your intuition in the first place. So what I would recommend asking is, like, on a felt embodied level, like take a moment to just feel into your body, take some deep breaths and ask yourself, scale 1 to 10, how much do I actually want to win? How much do I genuinely and truly want to succeed? If it's not a full-bodied, resounding yes, you can bet that there's gonna be some part of your personality steering you astray and probably making the right move to take or the right part to listen to that much more difficult to decipher. So the most important thing in making sure that you can follow your intuition is, first of all, making sure that you actually want to win and that you actually are willing to face the unknown. Because another scary thing about the intuition is it doesn't make sense a lot of times. It's just a felt sense. So in order to follow it, you kind of have to walk into the unknown and trust yourself, which is scary for a lot of people. You have to have faith in something that if I follow this feeling that doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, that it's gonna work out. And if you are a control type person or a perfectionist type person, that can be a very, very, very scary thing. So the number one thing is like, why don't I already know? Because if you really wanted to already know the difference, you would. And so the fact is, the fact that you don't already know the difference means you have something inside of you confusing it. Whether it's fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown, fear of yourself, fear of whatever it might be, ask yourself, what is stopping me from knowing clearly and truly what the right move is? Do I actually even want to take the right move? Do I actually even want to win? Do I actually even want good things for myself? Because if you truly know where you're going, believe you can win, have the identity of a winner, then all of a sudden following your intuition just kind of makes sense and it just starts showing up and you're like, oh, that feels right, I'm gonna go do that. Because there's not all these other parts in your head arguing with it and doing all these things to try and steer you in different directions. So clarify your direction, clarify that your identity supports that direction, and then everything gets a whole hell of a lot easier. So I know this is a complex thing, but these are the main reasons why it's difficult to identify your intuition or to follow it. And just to kind of reiterate, there is a felt difference. You can feel the difference because intuition is actually much more quiet. Intuition just kind of says stuff and it doesn't demand that you follow it. Fear does demand that you follow it because it thinks you're gonna die if you don't. Whereas intuition is just like, hey, that's the right move. and it's just kind of up to you whether or not you take it. So there is a definitive distinction between the two. However, the most important distinction is whether or not you actually want to know the answers. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. I'll be happy to go deeper into it. But I'm Chris Roscoe. I love you, and I'll see you next time.